What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today, we want to talk about something that Tech and Sports does at the end of the day, and it really puts them in a great position of success. And if you do the opposite, it puts you in a position where you're always behind. So there's some at the end of the day, you do something that you don't really want to do. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, pretty much. So, at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, or at the end of any period, it's really, just to get better or 1% better every single day. So, if you just do 1% more or 10% more extra per day over the course of a year or 10 years, it's going to have, a compounding effect on everything that you do. So, for today, I got to my warehouse early to do the podcast, and in my warehouse I condensed the entire blue section. It sucks to do it because it's probably 1,000 shirts, but it took me 15 minutes to do it. But I didn't want to do it, but just doing that extra effort, that extra work now, will save me from having to do that when it's crunch time or when time matters. So that's really the biggest thing, is like doing stuff that you don't want to do during crunch time or when time is of the essence. That's when it really sucks to do those things. But if you can pick and choose when to do the things that you don't like to do, it makes everything a whole lot easier.
Here's something as an example that I'm going to do. I want every station to have all the same tools, a pen, a Sharpie, pair of scissors. I want there to be a visual representation. Like if one pile is getting low of something, somebody needs to address that. And I don't have that in place right now. It's like someone will tell me we're running out of this right when we're running out of it. So I've got to adjust that. And then there needs to be a checklist where I go around at the end of the day. But I think doing something in addition I've been doing that since you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. And every day it's getting a little more clean. Every day we're finishing a little bit earlier. It's important to do that. And that's kind of, I think the overall theme I'm getting is people don't necessarily want to work all day, but getting done earlier should be motivation for you to think about these little things you can do.
Yeah, because on the flip side of the coin of doing 1% more per day, if you do 1% less per day, like if you're on a ship sailing across the Atlantic and you want to get to Florida, if you're 1% off on the navigation beacon per day, you're going to end up in Maine. So, like, over the course of time, your ship is going to sail off and veer to the right. It's the same thing with everything else, just like in business. If you're 1% off every single day, at the end of the year, that's 365% that your business is off. So if every day, like, that could be 4 days behind at the end of the year, just by doing something so simple that's going to take you 5 minutes. So, like you said, getting more done in the same amount of time, is huge. So right now, we are one day ahead for the week, and it's only Wednesday. We've already taken the photographs for tomorrow, and we've already started listing for tomorrow. So we're one full day ahead only on Wednesday, because everything is in place. Like you said, the redundancies are there. They know when they're getting low on their station, they have to go and get more. They know that if they need something, it needs to be, spoken about. It's not a guessing game, or I'm not a mind reader. We all have to communicate, and we all have to all be on the same page. That's really the biggest thing, is everybody has to be on the same page. So if the rule is, tell me before we get out of stock that we need this thing, everybody has to be on that same page. You can't have one person that tells you, oh, we're out of stock on this and we don't have any. Because then that goes back to last week's episode of the defect rate. So now you're running to Office Depot to get something, paying quadruple the amount it cost online, and everything stops, everyone stops, and we're all waiting for you to bring back the item that we're out of stock on. So, doing a lot of small things every single day is very, very crucial to this business. There's not one piece that's difficult, but to do the 100 things that we have to do every single day, and they all have to go perfect, that's paramount to success in this business for sure.
And I think that is like, this morning we were talking about photography, and about 50% of every conversation is photography. And that's because Everyone has different lighting, different equipment, different standards for their photos, a different setup. And one thing I was just thinking about um, while driving home today is one of the main reasons that photography doesn't work for a lot of people is the space changes. So they don't use the same space. And the second is they don't have enough space. You know, if you look at the traditional photography room for a company, it's an entire room usually. But in the home business, people can't really afford an entire room. They're doing it out of a bedroom. Maybe they're breaking down their setup. Maybe they're doing it at different parts of the house. That makes it very difficult.
Very true. What do you think of the aspect of that's the only part of this business that is arbitrary and opinion based? Everything else is black and white. It's either a good item or not a good item. It's either going to sell or it's not going to sell. It's either going to get listed or not get listed. It's going to get shipped or not get shipped, put away or not put away.
That's right.
Photo is the only thing that is opinion based. And people, maybe they have the expectation of a professional photographer, but they're not a professional photographer. And if you spend all of your time learning to be a professional photographer, then you may as well just be a professional photographer. But I think the biggest issue with photos is it's very arbitrary. And if someone is not 100% happy with how their photos are looking, when they see you make an improvement or someone else doing something, we got to go try that because we're not 100% happy with our photos.
Mhm.
If we're not 100% happy with our sales, we know what we have to do.
Mhm.
We have to list more items more consistently, more quality items, or we have to make our listings more quality listings, fill out item specifics, make sure our metrics are good. That's all black and white and spelled out. So if you're not 100% happy with your sales or any other portion of your business, that could be diagnosed and fixed. But the not 100% happy with your photos, that you can't diagnose that because it's ever evolving and it may be impossible to get perfect photos. And maybe we need to be okay with not having perfect photos unless you're a professional photographer.
I agree with that. So since the beginning of this year, I put my scientist coat in the closet and I haven't changed my photography setup this entire year. And that's allowed me to list more items than I ever have before. But throughout the last 4.5 months of taking thousands and thousands of photographs, once in a while, the airdrop transfer is a little slow, or one of the transfers is broken, or something happens and there's defects in the photographs. So I'm looking at people who use a camera like yourself, plug
Mm-hmm.
in a memory card. There's
Mm-hmm.
less opportunities for defects. So right now, as the store grows, it's not as big of a problem right now when it's small, but as it gets bigger, tiny problems become huge problems. So that's why I'm looking at this as okay, photography might be one of those things that cannot be improved slightly over time. It might be you think of how you want to set it up and do it all in one shot and then just leave it that. Because tinkering, I think, is doesn't really you can adjust your title, you can adjust the price a couple bucks. You can't adjust your photos because if you change the lighting, the photos look different.
Totally. So, like you said, if you're having issues with AirDrop, we can diagnose that and we could say, let's move to a camera with a physical memory card and let's plug it right into the computer. There's no transfer. We've eliminated that whole step. We've eliminated that issue.
Mhm.
But for photos, there's no fix. It's never ending because you can get a new camera and you have to start over,
Yep.
even if you have a perfect photo setup.
Yep.
Maybe one of your lights break and you have to get a different kind of light. You might have to start all over. But in my house, certain times of the year, the sun shifts. So in the winter, I have to put a curtain up. Otherwise, there's a line of sunshine on my backdrop.
Mm.
So like everything changes with photos, and I can't fight Mother Nature or the orientation of my house. It's just something that I have to accept that for 6 months out of the year, I have to draw the curtain on this window in order to maintain the photos. So I could up and move every 6 months into a different portion, reset up everything, redo everything, start from scratch and do that. or it is what it is. These are the photos that I'm happy with, and they allow me to list as many items as I'm able to list per day. And let me fix other issues in the business that can be fixed, that can be diagnosed. Because for you, you have not changed your photos the entire time. And now maybe you're starting to think about perhaps changing it. But in the last 4 or 5 months, I don't think probably a single customer has messaged you and said, hey, can't buy this item because I don't like the photos.
Nope.
Like I've never had that customer message me. And I think my photos, I think they're professional. I don't think they're professional because they're professional photos. I think they're professional because they're standardized throughout the store.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the look that I go for, as a professional standardization across the board that could be replicated at scale.
Mm-hmm.
No one messaged me and said, hey, I don't like how your photos look. I'm not going to buy this item.
That's right.
So how much emphasis needs to be put into it? And unless they're on the floor next to the toilet in the bathroom with their toes showing, that's the only time a customer is going to message you and say, I'm not buying this because your photos are no good. Because there are people on eBay who sell like that.
Yeah.
But if you have standardization in your photos and they are anywhere close to the quality of mine, I assure you that you can sell hundreds of thousands of items over your eBay career.
I agree with you. I think that, when you decide on standardization, that is a big step.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to think about whatever your standard is going to be. We review stores that I know one store, he can only photograph 6 items an hour because it takes so long to do that kind of process. And for him, every item over $100, maybe that is worth it. If you're selling common items and only taking photographs of 6 items per hour, you might be losing money over just a minimum wage job, because that is too slow for that type of a setup. There has to be a balance.
Right. And the standardization for the person who has over $100 average sale price is probably going to be on a mannequin,
Yep.
pure white background, everything straight, very intense close-ups, maybe a 500 megapixel digital camera to really capture the details. But I don't know a single person that has an average sale price over $100. So if you're in the everyday value category, you probably don't need a 500 megapixel camera to capture every single detail of an item that's going to sell for under 25 or 20 or $30. It is what it is at the end of the day. The people who buy it understand what they're buying. They don't need to be sold or offered a presentation like a customer that's looking for a Gucci suit or a Louis Vuitton silk button-up shirt. That's a different clientele, and that requires a different structure for your business, and that is going to require a different photo taking process. So for me, I can't sell Louis Vuitton silk shirts in my photo setup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm realistic with myself, and I know that. But ask me how many silk Louis Vuitton shirts I've ever found, and the answer is zero. So why would I build a photo studio around items that I never find? My business is built around my business of items that are everyday value, $30 and under. And as long as your photos are good enough, they are good enough to sell the item. So standardize your photo process, do it how you want it to be done, throw your photo process out the window, and focus on getting listings up every single day after that.
Our dropshipping friends have told us that 50% of all eBay transactions are under $12 and 90% are under $30. So almost all eBay purchases are under $30 because everyday value is what people buy. Dollar Tree makes way more money than Target because they're just so busy. The average person goes there because they can afford 14, 16 items when they go in there. The everyday value is massive. All dollar companies are growing. Dollar Tree, Dollar General, 99-cent stores. There's so many of these because affordable is how people scale. So think about what those stores do. No one's impressed, really. It's just accurate. So when your
Right.
photos need to be accurate.
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I used to do the 5 into 30 model, the 7 into 30 model. That was my target when I was sourcing. So my items would always be 25, 30, $50. That was kind of the ballpark that I was in. When COVID started, I had to kind of widen my net more because I wasn't able to go out and source and find items every single day because everything was closed. So I started getting items that were not $30 items. They were 20, maybe 16, maybe 14, maybe 12, maybe 9.99. And I thought, man, it's going to be tough to make money doing this. But by sourcing that way, I also was able to bring down my average cost of goods. So my average cost of goods went down, but like I I wasn't getting as many 30 or 40 or $50 items, and I thought it was going to be more difficult to make money. But when I tell you that my sales are so much more and I'm making so much more money by selling affordable everyday value items compared to the 30, the 40 and the 50 and the 60, it's not even close in comparison. um, it is not even close, the everyday value game to the 40 and the 50 and $60 game. I still have those items, but I will sell $20 items maybe 1,000 or 2,000 to one compared to a jacket for $80.
I 100% agree with you. My sales are way up. They're really stable.
Mm-hmm.
When you have everyday value items, your sales don't fluctuate so much because when 90% of people can afford it,
Right.
your net is super duper duper wide. And that's also with your 20,000 hooks in the water analogy, which is now 32,000 hooks. You have them close to the beach and where everyone can get it, or all the way in the deep sea ocean, $2,000 t-shirt. I mean, there's only a few people who are going to buy that.
Totally, man. And I sold probably 40,000 items before I sold that shirt for a couple $1,000s. Because there's only one guy on eBay that can afford that shirt and that's looking for it. So to me, if you present me this shirt that I can sell for a couple $1,000, or you present me with 20,000 items that I can sell, I'm going to take the 20,000 items every day of the week and you can keep the $2,000 shirt. I don't want that. I would prefer to have items that are going to sell and have a quick turnover. So for me, my store is 32,000 items. I'm probably going to sell somewhere around 80,000 items this year because it's everyday value. The stuff is turning so fast. So it's not really just a 30,000 item store. We're talking 110,000, 120,000 items are going to go in and out of the store within the 365 days this year, which helps me with my biggest issue, which is storage. If I had all $1,000 shirts, I'd run out of storage space by next week because the sell through is too slow. But if I'm able to keep up this sell through, maybe I can ride out the 30,000 item, threshold that I'm at. But really, this store is over 100,000 items per year, and that's only because of everyday value, the quick turn, and the amount of stuff that I'm able to sell because it's affordable. So to do the everyday value like we're talking about, you have to do it at scale. Because if you do everyday value one, two, three at a time per day, that's a grind and that's very difficult to do. But if you want to have any success in this business long term, I believe only the big stores are going to survive. I think small stores are going to get swallowed up because we always talk about the costs go up every single year, fees go up, shipping go up every single year. And if you cannot build a massive store to absorb these costs, I think your days on eBay are numbered. And that's just me just totally being honest.
Well, a week ago, I bought 10 items I'm hoping to make $10,000 on. And I just thought to myself, okay, I'm trying to make $1,000 profit. If I honestly ask myself how long it would take me to sell them, I'm thinking a year. So a
Mm-hmm.
year to sell 10 items, the same amount, and I'm paying 10,000 to make 10,000. The
Mm-hmm.
same $10,000 in my everyday value probably make me $30,000 in half a year. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that, and I didn't even think about that until after, when I was thinking about how long is this going to take me to sell, because I was so caught up in making $1,000 per item, I forgot that's not a good deal. When you're doing everyday value, you can triple your money. A dollar in the 20 thousands of times will make you rich.
Totally. So like, last year I bought 1,000 Grateful Dead shirts for $50,000.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make great money on the deal, but like I'm not gonna sell those. I'm not gonna sell all 1,000 of those shirts even within 1 year,
Mhm.
because not a lot of people want a shirt for 250 or for $350.
Right.
So like I sunk $50,000 into this deal, and like if I really needed that money, I would be in trouble. But it's probably gonna take me 2 years to sell through those 1,000 shirts. Where if I spent $50,000 and bought 10,000 items, based on my turn, we're talking 6 weeks of items that I sell. That's 10,000 items, and I could do that every 6 weeks. That's almost 10 times a year.
And you're not
So
going to go ahead.
so where's the money better spent? Like it's cooler to show I got all these awesome shirts. That's cool. But like it's way cooler to have a lot more money in my bank account than money locked up in a bunch of expensive items that will eventually sell.
And have fraud risk. I just realized right now these items they're going to sell for a couple $1,000s. I've got to hold my breath till the return policy expires, and I even have to wait for a chargeback. Thousands of dollars per item is risky. You have to really think about buying something for 1,000 that's worth 2,000. That is extraordinarily risky when it's something that can easily be returned. It can be damaged. It can be used. It can be rented. So, you have to think about the allure versus, when I sell a pair of Levi's for 25 bucks, they can keep it if something is an issue.
The only saving grace you have is that eBay does have that authentication program now.
They do. Yeah.
So if it does get returned or anything, they'll cover you, but you better buckle your seatbelt if you want to make a multi-$1,000 claim with eBay.
That sounds, that is a scary game. And I think that, yes, I definitely, and on top of the fact that researching heavy hitters takes more time. So you're researching
Mm-hmm.
more time on the returns, more time to find them because they're hard to find.
Yep.
So I posted it on my Instagram, and the kind of attention I was getting was distracting. I was thinking, why do I even care? This is not important. No one cares when you're selling an everyday value item. There's zero distraction. If your workers are looking through amazing thing, amazing thing, amazing thing, that's going to be really distracting to try to work when everything is amazing.
Yep.
Everything is at this point, my workers could care less. They don't even like clothes anymore at this point. It's all regular clothes. Nothing even tempts them. There's no probably really low stealing. Maybe they are, but I don't think so. There's
Nah.
different.
It's funny you say that though, because at my brick and mortar store, when they put out 1,000 regular items, it takes half a day. When they put out 100 heavy hitters, it takes them a full day. Because
Yeah.
they got to look at it, they got to touch it, they got to try it on,
Yeah.
they have to take some pictures, show their friends. It takes a full day to put out 100 heavy hitters. It takes a half day to put out 1,000 regular pieces of clothes in the store.
That it totally makes sense. It
Yeah.
and that's kind of the beauty of selling in a category you don't care about. There's no ownership. You're not getting you have no, like, for you, it'd be easy for you to have a really sweet vintage clothing collection, but you don't.
No. Yeah, totally. If you fall in love with your items, I saw a lot of people do that in the beginning, and those same people were wearing all of their best stuff
Yep.
and then talking about their sales are slow and they're not making any money. So like that to me from the jump, I was just thinking like, why don't you just sell that jacket off of your back right now for like $500? And they're like, no, 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 I can't sell it. But like, you still need money to pay the rent at the end of the month, so you have to make a decision here. And yeah, that taught me real quick that for me, I can't keep anything. Everything has to get sold, because if I keep one thing, I'm going to keep another and another and another. So yeah, I agree.
Having the stuff in your stash, like when people go shopping in their own store, very dangerous habit. This is the opposite of, at the end of the day, you're reinvesting time into your business so you can have more later. You're robbing yourself by taking the future of your business and using that value on yourself right now. And you wouldn't be able to do that at another company. No company is going to let you use their stuff while you work there. But you always say the biggest line of wasted time the biggest waste is you stealing from yourself during the day, that by procrastinating or doing something extra. I think about that, and it's almost like I want to be ahead. I hate being behind. Everything bad happens from being behind. So if you can just be the habit of doing one extra everything, you need you need a pack of labels. You buy two. You need to list 10 items tomorrow. You draft 20. You want to set up a new inventory system. So you make an inventory system a little bit bigger than you need,
Yeah,
a little more comfortable. You set up a space that has a little extra space so you can breathe in. All of these little things. You buy two pens instead of one pen. You make lunch that has leftovers and you can eat it a little more for a snack later. All this stuff adds up to never being in a hurry, never having to run and go do things. And all the rich people that I meet, they're not rushing from one place to another. You've already lost if you're rushing from one place, because that's when errors and defects happen.
totally, man. So like, if you're late to a meeting, you got to speed and you got to drive a little more aggressive, more prone to accidents. It's the same way. A lot of people have a lot of stress doing this business that we do, and if you're constantly working from behind and have stress, like that is an everyday struggle. And who wants to wake up and have that everyday struggle of constantly being behind, the feeling of never being able to catch up, and then also compounded with all the other responsibilities that we have to do every single day. So, like you said, being ahead, that might be the biggest key to success for everything. So, like a lot of people, on time is 15 minutes ahead. Um, just if you could be a 15-minute ahead person, you will always be done with any time to spare. That if there's a wrinkle or a curveball, instead of being ahead, like now you're on target, now you're on time. So, like, that might be the biggest key to success in doing anything, is just being ahead and a little bit before the time you're supposed to be there. Just be 15 minutes early.
We record our podcast in front of all of our Patreon members. So I apologize if I let you guys or just got you in from the waiting room. But Florian is saying they call it in the kitchen the mise en place, having your stuff ready to cook. I think that nothing would be more frustrating than being a line chef and there's ingredients are missing. You've got to go back to the fridge. Things are getting cold. I feel like a restaurant really is clockwork, having everything ready within reach. That's massive. With reselling, I would say the biggest waste is, Patty on the call this morning, not to pick on Patty, but she was saying that she might have five mallets because each time they can't find a mallet, they got to run to the store and buy another one. And that's the opposite of compounding. It's compounding the wrong direction.
Yeah, so in the kitchen they have, the top dog chef, they have sous chefs, they have, line cooks, prep chefs, whatever the names may be, but they have dedicated people that prepare everything for the main person. So, like you have people that are preparing your listings.
Mhm.
Maybe you have someone that prepares your shipments, and then you're the head chef. And at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to make sure that everything is plated professionally for the customer. It's the same thing that we're doing. If even if you're not to the point where you can afford a sous chef or a prep chef to get everything prepped for you, you have to be an owner operator of your kitchen, and then you have to take a step back from being the top dog big chef, and you have to become your own prepper and your own sous chef that gets all the carrots chopped, gets all the onions chopped, and that way you present it to yourself once you become the chef. In that point where, okay, everything is prepped, now I'm ready for photos, everything is done, now I'm ready for listings. So doing the photos and doing the listings is the head chef. Everything before that, doing zippers, doing buttons, making sure nothing has flaws, that's all prep stuff, that's all line cook stuff. But every chef had to be a line cook before they ended up being the chef. So even if you can't afford people to prep for you, you also have to wear that hat, and you also have to do it and get it prepped for yourself to make your life easier.
So right now I'm thinking about my process and everything. I'm trying to be one step ahead. So in the beginning of the process, I use a bin system, so all the bins need to have a label on the item. So the labels need to be ready, and the items get described. So the pile of items that needs to be described has to be ready. Those have to be buttoned, have to be detagged. If they need to be washed, they need to be repaired. All that stuff needs to happen before it gets to the describing table. The describer, right now, she set it up like a deli. She has the tags rolling in from above. So she pulls down a tag, puts it on the item, describes it, puts it in the photography area. I asked the photography lady the maximum she can do in a day would be like 360 sets of photos. If she ran a perfect day, but she never runs a perfect day. But I'm like, okay, let's have 360 ahead. In case the describer doesn't show up, you don't have to wait. You'll be fine. Make sure we have one day ahead there. Then item gets packed. Packer, same thing. He's one day ahead. We edit the photos. There's always all of the photos are always edited as soon as they're taken. But then the drafting happens. But currently right now there is no waiting, and we're at least a day ahead. No one is waiting an additional day, but the actual supplies, I really need to go in there. And this is something that I would have to do at the end of the day. During your regular day, people call it the whirlwind. You're not going to be able to add anything or improve anything during the day. It's not possible. You're just so busy.
No, and that's the whole discussion of, making an improvement or doing better at the end of the day when you have time to do it. Because if you have to do hard tasks like making an improvement during the workday, it's impossible to do. Everything has to stop. Everything has to shut down. Like if you were in the Pringles plant and they said, okay, we're going to switch. We're not putting it in cans. We're putting it in bags. Like you can't shut down everything and everyone's standing around waiting for you to tinker with the machine to insert bags and then see if it's going to work or not. Like that's something you have to do beforehand, and it has to be ready when everyone shows up to work. So yeah, totally. If you're going to do any kind of improvement, and that's where people get stuck as well. They try to make an improvement and then also do everything that they're supposed to do.
Yep.
But like do everything you're supposed to do, then tinker. The result has to be the same. You can tinker after the result is done.
Thank you for listening. That concludes the free version of our podcast. You can listen to the rest of the 1 hour episode at patreon.com/the Resource Podcast. We now have 30 episodes. We've been doing this for over a half year now. We've never missed a Wednesday. We are preaching consistency for everyone. Please join our Facebook group. It's the same link. For $35 a month, you can be in our mentorship. So essentially you put what you're working on in the Facebook group, and we have almost 500 people now that will answer and give you the best advice on how to get your level, to how to get yourself to the next level. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.